Hi, everybody. My name's Rebecca, and welcome back to My Bookish Travels. Today, I am going to be doing my January wrap-up, and I've tried a different format than I typically do. So rather than just discussing the books that I read for the month, I'm also going to mention some movies I watched, some of the TV show seasons that I have completed watching or rewatching. I'm also going to discuss some podcast listens, some of my goal updates, as well as just some other things that I did during the month that brought me great joy. And I look forward to getting some feedback from you guys on if you like this new format and if there's some other sections I should maybe include going forward. So here we go. For the books that I read, the first one I wanted to mention is Mistletoe Murders. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I had so much fun listening to it. The setting takes place in Canada in a small town, and although it does not tell you specifically what town, you do know that it's taking place in Canada, which I really enjoy, and it definitely gives cozy vibes for Christmas and New Year's, and the mystery aspect is just on point. I really enjoyed listening to this with my mom, and both of us are hoping that with the cliffhanger of the ending they gave at the end of the final episode, they will have another season. The next two are Tarnished Crown and Fallen Heir. These are both book 3.5 and book 4 of The Royals. Book 3.5, Tarnished Crown, follows Gideon's romance, and book 4, Fallen Heir, is the first part of Easton's romance. I am so excited to have read these. I really love the Royals series, and Aaron Watt, the two authors that partner together to create this pseudonym, do amazing with their writing. I'm really excited to continue on with Easton's story soon. I just haven't had a chance to pick up the next one, although I do own it. And I cannot tell you how well these authors write together, because no matter what I read from them in this series, every single time I finish one of the books, I just need more. So both of these I gave 3 out of 5 stars. After that, I finished Tainted by Jamie Begley. I really love Jamie Begley's writings. If you guys love motorcycle and darker romances, this was the first author that I started reading that did those. I was probably a teenager when she first published Razor's Ride, and I remember it was love at first read. I am so excited to continue reading on in the world that she's built, and I really enjoyed the story for Tainted. It just worked really well, and before I knew it, I was finished the book. After that, I finished The Perfect Dilemma, which I gave 5 out of 5 stars. It is a novella by January James. It was my first time reading something by this author. It's a freebie that she is releasing for anyone who signs up for her newsletter. And it was so much fun to read. And it just was so perfect. Like, you know how sometimes you read a novella and you're just like, there's no way that it is this good. No, that novella was brilliant from start to finish. I have not a single complaint for how the story happened. After that, I finished How to Listen So People Will Talk. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. If you guys struggle sometimes to actually listen and not just hear what people are saying, then I highly recommend giving this book a chance. It is by a Christian author, and there are a lot of biblical references that take place in this nonfiction, and it was so well done. I gleaned a lot out of this book, and I highly recommend if you're looking for a book that will give you some self-development in that specific part of your life, then this is probably a book you should check out. I also finished Babble. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. I loved the actual writing style of the author. I cannot believe this story took place over 4 years. And on top of that, there was just so many layers to the story and the historical background and just the enveloping of the reader in this story, that the author made sure that you had the information you needed, and sometimes even more than you needed in certain areas. It was brilliantly done. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars because there were a couple of things that I wasn't fully sold on, but I really have to commend the author taking those risks outside of the realm of what you were expecting. And this was actually my first time reading dark academia, which I did have to do a bit of research on because I did not know anything about that until I read this book. And the final one I read in January was The Marriage Arrangement. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. It's by Jennifer Probst. It is a novella that the author wrote after she completed the Marriage to a Billionaire series. And this was so much fun to read. And I don't know what's going on with the novellas I'm reading lately, but I am loving them. They are brilliantly done, and they're giving me just that amount of appetite to be like, I need to devour more. So for me, I really like the aspect that the author went in, and I love that she had the characters actually face head on in a specific situation, and rather than spending years separated and not actually listening to each other, she thrust them into a situation where they had to listen to each other and be in close confines with each other, and it was so good. I loved it so much, and I highly recommend if you guys want to check it out, go and check it out. It was worth it. Moving on to movies, I finally watched Enola Holmes 2. My mom and I had so much fun watching this, and yes, it does deviate from the actual stories and the writing of Enola Holmes, but it worked so well doing that aspect of the actual historical background and putting it into a fictional setting and introducing that history. It was really fun, and I really loved it, and I just really enjoyed watching the movie, and although it is a bit of a slower pace than the first one, so worth it because it all makes sense in the end. They had so much development they had to do at the start, and they didn't shy away from that, and I totally commend that. I also watched Resisting Roots finally on Passionflix. This was so good, guys. Definitely for an older audience, but it was really well done. It was well acted and performed and casted and directed and produced. It is probably by far the best film I have watched done by Passionflix, and very, very good job. After that, my mom and I watched Back to the Secret Garden. I had never seen this before. I did not know that they had made a sequel film to The Secret Garden, and I really enjoyed it. It definitely gave the same vibe that The Secret Garden gave, and they're still trying to be true to the story in some aspects. It's got a lot of characters that you are going to know, the actors or actresses from other roles they've played, but it was just a very quaint, nice and quiet film. Like if you're looking for something very soothing to watch and you haven't watched something like this before, take a movie night, go watch Back to the Secret Garden. Very much worth your time. And lastly, Nanny McPhee returns, or I believe in the UK it was released as Nanny McPhee and the Big Bang. This was so good. I loved this version of Nanny McPhee in the second one. I feel like the second is almost more my favorite than the first one, and I think it's because in the books, the author has Nanny McPhee going back to the same family for the same problems 3 times, whereas in this one, you have a little bit more that is going on and that next step taking place. It's just beautiful. It's lovely. I have nothing but praise for Emma Thompson for the way that she acted this out, the way that she created it, and it's just brilliant. If you only watch Nanny McPhee and you didn't know there was a sequel, please take some time and go and watch it because I feel that it's even better than the first one. For TV shows, my mom and I finished rewatching season 2 of Sherlock. We are currently rewatching through to get to season 4 because it's the only thing we haven't watched yet of that TV show. I love how brilliant Sherlock is. Every time I get to that final episode, I get this gut feeling that I'm just like, oh, I hate this, but it is so brilliantly done. And I can't help it. Sherlock is such a brilliant modernized adaptation that still stays true to the works that I can't say anything negative about it. Martin Freeman, Benedict Cumberbatch, both of them are brilliant in their roles, and I'm so glad I watched season 2 again. I also ended up watching season 2 of Alex Rider, and I am loving the versions of Alex Rider that Amazon Prime has produced. I really did not like the first film that was released. It did not stay true to the novel, and it was just kind of awkward to watch. And on the other hand, you have season 1 and season 2 of Alex Rider come out, and they are amazing. They have invested the funds that are necessary to make it brilliant, and I cannot wait to find out more about season 3 because I'm hooked. I love the book series. I have for years, and I cannot wait to continue seeing them develop Alex Rider as a character and all of his adventures that are quite dangerous and definitely leave you a little bit scarred sometimes. But it's so good, and if you haven't taken time to go and watch it because you were scarred from the movie that was released many years ago, have no fear, definitely better than the movie. And finally, my mom and I watched Reacher season. And yes, I did watch this before I read the book. Definitely looking forward to reading the book going forward, as well as the series. I really love the acting and the amount of dedication Amazon Prime took in this series. Definitely meant for an older audience with the very graphic scenes that occurred in a couple of parts and the level of commitment that they had to the story. I feel like I'm glad I didn't read it beforehand because both my mom and I had that shock factor of what took place, not knowing what was coming. Although we did have a couple of times we were like, I feel like this is what's happening. For the most part, we didn't actually know, and we really enjoyed seeing that story come to a resolution. Next, I have a couple of podcasts that I listened to during the month that I really, really liked and want to recommend. So for true crime, I want to recommend Canadian True Crime, if you guys are interested in hearing more about crimes that took place here in Canada, as well as Criminal Conduct. This is a newer one that I have recently found, and my mom and I started listening to it together, and I really enjoy the investigative part that they have done. I feel that they're very respectful with how they're coming and approaching the story, and they don't seem to get so invested that you feel like it's a biased story. They're really good with making sure that they keep themselves separate as the reporter of this crime or the situation they're talking about, rather than the actual getting involved and getting very, very passionate to the point that you can read that they are just completely biased for what they are talking about. They also try to make sure that they're approaching it from both sides. So they try to give more of a holistic view about everything that's taking place in the story of the crime. Next, if you guys are looking for something more on the Christian side, I definitely recommend giving a try to the Daily Grace podcast. And the podcast that I'm actually listening through to help me with reading through the Bible and feeling like I'm doing it more on a schedule is A Year in the Bible with Daily Grace. It's only about 5 minutes, between 5 to 10 minutes for each podcast that they do, and it just coincides with the verses that you read each day. I have found these to be quite helpful, and I find it very uplifting listening to these podcasts. And finally, one that is a little bit different from all of the ones that I listen to is Salem The Podcast. So this takes place in Salem, Massachusetts, and it is hosted by two of the travel guides in Salem itself. They interview different people that are part of that environment, and they talk about different things that are unique or specific to that area of the States. For Salem, I actually really enjoyed getting to listen through some of these. It's going to take me a while to get caught up to their most recent. I decided to start back at their first one and work my way through. And it's really nice because maybe it's not somewhere that I'm going to get to right away for traveling, but getting to hear different things that are really unique, it makes me feel like I'm doing a little bit of a trip to Salem when I listen to their podcast. So that's another one that I've listened to. So now it is time to give you guys some goals update. So the first one for my Bible reading, I am on track. So at the end of January, I was in the book of Leviticus. When it came to my savings goal, I am currently 21% of the way to that goal, which is very exciting. For my actual unread books, I am still at 0%, which also tells me how many books I actually own that I haven't read. My Goodreads goal of 105 books is currently at 6%. And for the book club I'm a part of, we actually completed reading Babble, and we did have our book discussion in January. Moving on to some other things that I did. In the month of January, I got out twice to go snowshoeing. I went once with my friend Jess, and I went another time with my mom, and it was beautiful. I'm so thankful that I live in such a beautiful part of the world. I also went and tried floating for the first time, which I know it sounds strange, but basically you get put into this capsule that has a ton of Epsom salts in the water and you just lay there and float. And I'm excited to go and try this again, but try it for less time because I feel like the longer length of time didn't necessarily work for me. But I also wonder if it's because I just did not allow my brain to settle and I really needed to let that happen. I also deep cleaned 2 of the rooms in our house and I feel so good about those deep cleans. I really loved the little changes that I did during that deep clean and it just really livened up that area. And the last 2 things I wanted to mention is I finally went and updated my library card, and I'm so excited that I did that. It's been so long since I've used my library card. It's been more than a couple of years. I probably was a teenager the last time I used my library card. So I went and got that reactivated, and I borrowed my first book from the library again. It actually was the February pick, and it was The Summoning by Kelly Armstrong. So for me, I'm really excited to kind of take part in that because my library also has Hoopla and Libby that they're a part of, which is more of a digital app that is connected through your library for free streaming or borrowing of certain items. And I really like that, it's that modernization of the library service, and I really appreciate it. For myself, getting my library card reactivated was something that I had been pushing off because for myself, if I really love a book, I want to own it and I want to have it on my shelf. But there are rare occasions where I come across something where I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to like this. So for me to be able to borrow it instead, it saves me spending that money. So that's a big thing for me. Also, I would like to tell everybody here that for the month of January, I did not buy or purchase any books. So I did not physically make the decision to purchase a book. I did have some free ones that came into my possession. But aside from that, I did not physically go out and purchase with my cash any physical books or audiobooks or ebooks. And I'm very, very thankful for that. It means that I am lessening the amount of money that I'm spending on these products, number one. And number two, it is also forcing me to read through my books and get them completed. So for me, I was really happy that I was able to get that done. And all in all, I'm very happy with January. I feel like I just accomplished so much and I'm so excited to kind of see the direction that things go in. It's really great and I'm very excited with regards to this. I did also apply for a position at my current work for an internal position that came available. So I did submit my name for that in the month of January. So we will see. Anyway, I hope that you guys have enjoyed this video. Again, let me know in the comments down below if you like this format, if you like kind of getting to hear my thoughts on a number of different things, or if you'd rather that I just go back to talking about the books I read for the month. So today, that is everything. I hope you've enjoyed this video and I will see you next time. Until then, stay safe, stay well, and I'll see you then. Bye!